On May 19, 2017, police officers in Tampa, Florida were called to the scene of a smoke shop where a young, irrational man had drawn a gun on customers and was ranting and raving. They were miraculously able to calm him and disarm him with no injuries, to only find out that he had shot and killed 2 of his roommates. And he said he did it to save the lives of thousands of people. Join us as we look into the case of Devon Arthurs and sift through this story of hate, neo-Nazis, and terror. Was this just a falling out between friends, or was a bigger tragedy averted? Before we begin, we would like to extend our deepest sympathies to the families who lost loved ones in these killings. We would also like to send a shout-out to our wonderful partner, Stranger Stories, who have provided us with footage and support in doing this story. Check them out on their channel listed below for their hard-hitting true crime analysis. The beginning of April 2017 saw 21-year-old Brandon Russell, a member of the Florida National Guard, leasing a condo in the Hamptons gated community in Tampa, Florida. He and a young friend, 18-year-old Devon Arthurs, moved in. They were joined a short time later by 2 more roommates, Andrew Unchuck and Jeremy Himmelman, who had moved down from Massachusetts to live in the apartment. On the outside, it didn't look very unusual. Russell was a clean-cut National Guardsman with the 53rd Infantry Brigade Combat Team who had studied engineering and was training to be a communications specialist in the military. Unchuck, 18 years old, and Himmelman, 22 years old, quickly found jobs working at a nearby recycling facility. Arthurs remained unemployed, mainly staying in the house, playing video games, and chatting online. Apartment 3722, however, held so many secrets, so many hate-filled, dangerous secrets. It was the headquarters of the Atomwaffen Division, a neo-Nazi white supremacist group that counted some 70 members around the country. First floor now! Inside the apartment, there were assault rifles, handguns, and lots of ammunition. Nazi flags, neo-Nazi imagery, and paraphernalia were common decorations in the place. One nightstand featured a framed picture of Timothy McVeigh, and the bookshelf held copies of Mein Kampf and the Turner Diaries, a novel advocating a violent race war and overthrow of the U.S. government.
At 9:15 yesterday morning, our bomb went off.
These are words from the book, The Turner Diaries.
Most of the victims of our bomb were only pawns, but there is no way we can destroy the system without hurting many thousands of innocent people.
There was a flag of the Azov Battalion, a neo-Nazi-infested group involved with the fighting in Ukraine, along with a North Korean flag. An American flag was kept as well near the front door, on the ground, to be trampled and trod upon as the inhabitants came and went from the place. The 4 plotted and schemed, organized the members of neo-Nazi subgroups, and made preparations for their own terrorist acts. The nearby garage held secrets as well, in the form of homemade explosives and detonators. They were planning something big and something violent, and then one of the members snapped and turned on his friends with murderous intent. Had he undergone a change of heart? Had he been picked on too much? Were the mental illnesses he fought finally getting the better of him? Did he murder his 2 friends in cold blood, or did he save thousands, as he claimed, by taking out his co-conspirators? That is still to be decided some 6 years later and counting. We do know that young Devon Arthurs did turn an assault rifle on his 2 roommates, Andrew Unchuck and Jeremy Himmelman. He killed the 2 men at close range. They had no idea the attack was coming, even though they themselves were wearing holstered handguns. Both men were shot in the head. One had been shot multiple times by a rifle at close range. At the time of his arrest, Arthurs told police that he had just killed his 2 roommates and let them know where the apartment was. He also alerted them as to what was in the garage and advised them that they would need to let the FBI know what was happening. As police took Arthurs in, the 4th roommate, Brandon Russell, returned from a National Guard training weekend and came across the carnage at the apartment. Police arriving at the scene heard Russell scream and then come out of the apartment, still wearing his fatigues that he had come home in. As he explained to the police that he had just arrived on the scene, a distraught Arthurs began telling a tale of how this had all come about and the dangers that the apartment housed. He also went into detail about the explosives Russell was making and keeping in the garage as well as what they were intended for. First, Devon was most concerned about getting to speak with a doctor and asked the detectives questioning him whether they would have a chance to let him see a doctor when he was sent to jail. His mental stability, obviously shaky at the time of the arrest, would come and go during the interview.
Yeah, we begin like this. When we go to the jail, can I please speak to the doctors there? They told me that I can talk to doctors when I get there.
Of course. I don't run the jail.
Yeah.
But when we get there, we'll explain.
After being assured that he would be taken care of by Detective Kenneth Neitlinger, Devon began to unroll the story. The detective allowed him to continue, but also seemed to understand that what he was saying at times may or may not have been connected to reality. Still, the murders had happened, and there were plenty of questions to be answered. Arthurs set the scene by explaining the group that he was a part of and lived with, the neo-Nazi Atomwaffen Division, a group identified as National Socialists, had an agenda to use violence and terror against the American public.
Atomwaffen Division is a terrorist organization. It's a neo-Nazi organization that I was a part of before I converted.
What's it called?
Atomwaffen Division.
Okay.
And I remember my roommate, Brandon, he's alive, the guy that was in the American uniform.
Uh-huh.
I hope he gets his shit together. I hope he gets his life together. He's a good person. But the things that they were planning were horrible. They're planning bombings and stuff like that on countless people. They're planning to kill civilian life.
Well, were they specific in their plans?
Power lines, nuclear reactors, synagogues, things like that.
He would continue to explain how he became involved in the group and then how his sudden decision to convert to Islam had created problems in the home.
When I was 14, I first started getting into these organizations and stuff like that.
Which organizations?
Neo-Nazis in the beginning. And I remember I converted when I was 17.
Converted to what?
Islam. I remember I outgrew the racist sentiments. I was this is silly. And, I watched, I'll be honest, I'm sympathetic with groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS and stuff like that. And I was very, very angry about the coalition bombings. So, that day I was watching videos of infants that were killed by American bombs.
Which day was that today?
Yeah, and that's what it was driving me crazy. It's that was getting me. And I was also seeing the posts that was being made in an encrypted chat by other members about how they want to kill blacks and how they want to kill
members of what?
The same organizations, yeah.
Which organization?
Atomwaffen.
That one, the one that you were formerly a part of.
Yeah, formerly a part of. And I was living there because I was living primarily with the guy in the American uniform, the Brandon. And he's a decent human being that can be reasoned with.
What exactly did you say?
They would say stuff like, I want to blow up refugee ships. They would say stuff like they want to go target blacks, like how Dylan Roof did. These people, they were not just innocent people. They weren't just my roommates, is what I mean.
Have they ever done any bad things specifically that you know about? Maybe that you were a part of, that you weren't part of?
I was never a part. We never targeted anybody, but we had plans. We had guys in the American military that literally would go to bases and steal huge amounts of equipment. We're talking Kevlar, night vision, stuff like that, for the intent of criminal activity, i.e., targeting government structures, targeting people.
This is part of the group that you were a part of?
Yes, sir.
In the meantime, Russell had already been brought to the police station and had explained away the explosives as just being components used for model rocketry. He was quickly released as his alibi at the time of the murders was proven that he was still returning from his National Guard training mission. Russell would make good use of the time before the investigators began understanding the importance of Arthur's seemingly rambling story, and the story continued.
I'm such an idiot for still living in that situation, for being at that apartment.
How long have you been there?
I've been there for several months. That's it.
Several months? Because my understanding is that Brandon just rented that apartment probably about a month and a half ago.
Yeah, about a month and a half, excuse me.
Okay, so you've been there since he rented it?
Yeah.
Okay. And how about the other two guys? Were they a part of it?
They've been here for a few weeks.
Oh, so you were first in there, they moved in after you?
Yeah.
Okay.
After a few minutes, he went into detail about the bomb materials in the garage. Word from the murder scene and Arthur's information had not linked up yet, as investigators were working on exactly what there was and how dangerous it really was. Russell, free for the moment, made his move to leave the area and called a friend. The two met up quickly and went to a local gun shop and both bought firearms, an AR-15 type assault rifle and a hunting rifle, plus hundreds of rounds of ammunition. While he said they were planning to head to the Keys to do some hunting, he marked on the purchase forms that the firearms could be used for self-defense since there was currently no open hunting season in the state of Florida at that time. Armed, he and his friend headed south and out of town. When you need a break from your busy life, enter the thrilling world of Lots of Slots, where the fun never stops and the winning keeps rolling in. Get ready to own the slot machines and see if Lady Luck is on your side as you play this vibrant and exciting free-to-play mobile game. It's like having a piece of Las Vegas in your pocket that you can enjoy anytime and anywhere. Download the link and the QR code to get 5 million free coins. You start with a bankroll of 1,000 virtual coins. Simply select the bet amount and spin the reel. Remember to watch for those exciting bonuses such as free spins and wild symbols that help you hit those big wins. With all these features, you'll never run out of coins. Start with one of the classic Vegas-style slots such as Lava Loot, or try one of the popular slots such as Rich and Sweet. Lots of Slots excels at providing endless hours of entertainment for players. Discover new striking slots released weekly that continuously provide engaging gameplay. Plus, this app contains a variety of exhilarating mini-games such as Space Battles or the Golden Wheel. These mini-games are valuable assets, especially for players looking to rack up a lot of coins before hitting the slot machines again. With Lots of Slots celebrating its 6th anniversary, you have an opportunity to download and use a free ticket to enter the live show raffle, where you could win an iPhone 14, Apple Watch, and so much more. Click the link or scan the QR code and download it to get 5 million free coins. Don't forget to enter the raffle to win the big prize. You'll get millions of free coins, 100% guaranteed. Meanwhile, the investigators worked to bring Arthurs back to focusing on what had happened that day. What had provoked the murders?
Tell these guys today. Walk me through today. You're there all day, the three of you guys.
Yeah, we were there all day, except he was at work for a little bit of it. He was at a recycling plant working, and I remember he came home. I remember I was on the encrypted chat and they're saying all this stuff
What's this encrypted chat?
It's a thing called Wire, and
WIRE, Wire.
Yeah, Wire. It's an encrypted chat, and there's an Adam Buffett chat on there. People are talk about bombings, robbing, raiding military bases and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yes, and
let me ask you this, and forgive me, I'm just trying to. You're educating me in this whole process, so I'm going to ask questions as a student sitting here. That is, you believe you have a faith. You said, what is your faith?
I'm a Muslim.
Okay. Does that coincide with this organization you're part of?
No, not at all.
So, how long have you been a Muslim?
I've been a Muslim since June of 2016.
Okay, so fairly recently.
Yeah.
Have you still maintained a part in this organization, or is that about when your ties to this organization were cut?
My main ties to this organization is I was a part of it out of necessity. I needed a place to stay away from my family. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I should have lived with them. I was just trying to get out of the house and stuff like that. And I would try to, I managed to convince some people to drop a lot of these beliefs and stuff like that. And I can feel thankful that I've done something like that. That's why I was a part of it. It was mainly to try to get people away from the shit and try to basically.
That's when you first joined up?
No, this is when. No, I was already part of it when I converted. I just when I converted, I was I got it. While I'm in here, I can't just leave it. If I left it, then I'd probably be killed or something like that. But if I'd either be killed or something in that nature. But if I didn't do that, then when it comes down to it, then I might as well try to convince people while I'm there, like almost, like basically convince people, like don't do this, don't throw your life away.
But you made no secret about it to even Brandon, I imagine, of your faith, right? They knew what you were about.
Yeah.
And they still tolerated you.
Yeah, they still tolerate. Yeah, they did barely.
But why? Why?
I honestly don't really know. I think Brandon has a true connection with me.
Okay.
Which computer are you talking about that with this encrypted chat?
Every computer in that house.
But no, the one that you saw, were you watching?
Yeah, it was my computer, my personal tablet.
Where is that one?
It's in my condo. You'll find I pay a lot of attention to like Syria and Iraq, like the conflicts over there.
But inside the condo.
Yeah,
there's 2 bedrooms and a main and
it's the living room.
Which one's your room?
The living room is where I keep my computer.
Okay, so that one right there, the one that's in the corner there, the main looks like a TV in the corner. That's your setup.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's essentially your room.
Yeah. So I remember you were in the other room. You were saying, like, I heard the word HMTD, referring to the explosives.
Yes, yeah, we're discussing it. Are you familiar with that?
100%. I know these people, they know exactly how to build, they knew exactly how to build bombs that could have destroyed this entire building.
Who are these people?
Atomwaffen. These people.
Okay.
Yeah, these people.
Not these 3 individuals they're lumped in with that.
They are. Yeah, Brandon's literally somebody that has the knowledge to build a nuclear bomb. I'm not meaning about that. He is literally somebody that he's somebody that literally went to school for 4 years to study radiation specifically to build a nuclear bomb. And
do you know if these materials are inside that condo right now?
No, there's no nuclear materials. Actually, there is. Yes, there is nuclear materials in that garage. There is some nuclear materials.
Okay, what's in that garage?
In that garage is HMTD. Yeah, those explosives. Yeah, some ammonium nitrate, I believe. And I know that there's some radiated materials that he was able to bring in through the Bahamas. And because he's a Bahamian citizen, he was able to bring it in.
How did he bring it in?
He brought it in through the airport. He was able to spoof the people that were working there with the TSA.
Okay. And do you know is it kept in a particular vessel inside the garage? Do you know where it's kept?
It's just in the garage, or it's in his in the supply closet in his room.
Okay.
And you'll know it because it's a giant SS flag above a lot of the equipment, ammunition, and stuff like that.
Okay.
You know, the more that I tell you, the more you see the scale of how big things really are.
Yeah, no. This is, absolutely serious stuff. So that's what any information you can give me to assist with, like I said, with combating these, these misguided individuals, to say the least. Then, I think we should make the effort to do that.
And it's really like the thing that really shocks me as well with it, and about like a lot of these organizations, is that they're everywhere. They're everywhere, all over America, all over Europe, and stuff like that.
Arthurs would bring the story back around to what the group was planning, what it was capable of, and how it all may have been stopped by his actions. At the time, it was hard to tell whether he was fully speaking the truth or whether a case could be made that Arthurs was suffering through some sort of paranoid delusion.
I know you believe that, but I'm asking specifics. Do you know about any specific plans that these 2 individuals had?
Yeah, they're planning on going down south to Alligator Alley and destroying 500 kV lines that were going along the road there.
How are they planning on doing that?
They're planning on taking HMTD and placing it at the base of the thing and then blowing it up.
Just these 2 individuals?
Well, Brandon's
going to be a part of that as well?
Yeah, and I remember...
Did they expect you to be a part of that?
Yeah, they did. I wasn't going to be a part of that, though.
Even with your current faith, they still expect you to go along with it?
Yeah, they were just, I guess. I mean, that's what... I mean, I know for a fact that they wanted me to. I'm just saying, I guess, because they were idiotic to think that I would have went to go do that with them. And I remember with the nuclear materials, he was planning on building a mortar and then firing it into there was a nuclear plant off the coast of Florida, and it's off the coast of Miami, and it's used to power that entire city in Fort Lauderdale and that kind of thing. And they were planning on firing that mortar of nuclear materials in it at that plant into the cooling things that are in the water. If that would have happened, that would have caused a massive, massive reactor failure, which would have led to the entirety of the water around there becoming irradiated. And think about a BP oil spill, except it wipes out parts of the entire eastern seaboard.
Arthurs then began to talk about his relationship with Russell. It became obvious that Arthurs really looked up to the man and still had many loyalties to him, even though he would continue to describe Russell's plans for the group.
He planned on doing that, and he did do that. He got
What about Brennan? Because Brennan's currently in
he joined specifically for the knowledge and the training, and he wants to use that training against the government. He doesn't care about the United States. I mean, he literally had an American flag at the front door that you trample on every time that he walk in. Like literally, these people join the military specifically to get training, to get access to equipment, and get access to being able to kill people. And and to be more efficient at doing so. Now it's like we're going to be insurgents, we're going to kill as many people as we can, and then we're going to do this to try to achieve white revolution, as they call it.
So this was a growing problem.
Oh, absolutely. It was growing, and their numbers kept on growing and stuff like that.
How do you think you would have continued to tolerate this or handle this? Do you think you would have been driven out at some point?
I think that I would have definitely been driven out. Today, at my boiling point, I was basically just messaging. I was literally, I had the Skype open, and I was like about to type, like, dude, I'm packing my shit, I'm going back to Orlando. You know, you guys can go fuck off, pretty much. And I was going to then contact the FBI or some local police to go like that.
Arthurs was soon processed and sent into holding to await his initial appearance before a judge. He would eventually be charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, 3 counts of armed kidnapping stemming from the smoke shop hostage situation, and 2 counts of aggravated assault. He would get to speak with a mental health professional during his time, as a preliminary assessment had to be made immediately for his safety. As Arthurs was tucked into a holding cell that evening, it had become apparent that the police had allowed Russell to go far too quickly, especially as the rocket-making materials in his garage turned out to be high explosives, well beyond that any hobbyist might normally have on hand. Russell and his companion had holed up in a motel in Miami. Police were hot on their trail, and the next morning he was arrested at a Burger King in Key Largo, Florida. The rifles and over 1,000 rounds of ammunition were found in Russell's car, along with homemade body armor and a skull mask. There were no spare clothes, no luggage, no food among their possessions. At the time of his capture, Deputy Deanna Torres said, "When we found all the weapons, we were convinced that we had just stopped a mass shooting. Russell would be arrested and hauled back to Tampa. Now the FBI was very interested in what was happening. So the question was, who was Brandon Russell? He was certainly more than a student and a National Guardsman that people thought he was. And who exactly were the 2 victims of the crime? There was something much darker in their histories, too." Russell, 22 at the time of the murders, had spent time at the University of South Florida, where he studied engineering with a keen interest in nuclear energy. He was also an amateur explosives enthusiast, even appearing on a YouTube video with Kevin Kohler, the backyard scientist, wherein he showed how to use a charge to blow a hole in a slab of meat. The video was about physics and science purely for entertainment and educational purposes. But there was a second version of Russell behind closed doors. In secret, he was the leader of the Atomwaffen Division, the neo-Nazi group that he had founded 5 years earlier. In an earlier posting about the group on the Iron March neo-Nazi and white supremacist website, Russell described the Atomwaffen Division as a fanatical ideological band of comrades who do both activism and military training. He continued by saying, "Keyboard warriorism is nothing to do with what we are." Russell's obsession with nuclear weaponry was right there in the name of his organization. Atomwaffen translates to atomic weapons, and his plans definitely included some efforts to include nuclear disasters, even if some seemed far-fetched. Arthurs described Russell as a man who idolized Oklahoma City bomber Timothy McVeigh, who also celebrated the Columbine high school shooters Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris. He also shared a love of Adolf Hitler and admired Norwegian mass murderer and neo-Nazi Anders Breivik. He had also expressed admiration for Virginia Tech mass murderer Sung-Hee Cho.
"You have vandalized my heart, raped my soul, and torched my conscience. You thought it was one pathetic boy's life you were extinguishing. You had 100 billion chances and ways to have avoided today, but you decided to spill my blood. You forced me into a corner and gave me only one option."
Russell also wanted to create mass havoc and massive casualties among those unlike him, and he worked hard for 5 years building a group to do just that. Arthurs, just a 13 or 14-year-old kid at the time, was one of his first recruits. Arthurs would drop out of school in the 10th grade and move from his home just outside of Orlando to be with his mentor Russell and help develop the organization. Himmelman and Unchuck would join over the next couple of years and lead the Massachusetts chapter of the organization. Then, after meeting the pair in Boston, the four men decided to live together in Tampa. Himmelman reportedly had financial problems and had toyed with the idea of joining the military as a method to get out from under them. Unchuck, although only 18 and the son of a U.S. military service member, had already traveled to France and had joined the French Foreign Legion. He left the Legion after a very short time, officially for an injured shoulder, although he admitted to his friends that there were too many black people among the recruits. He was thinking of joining the U.S. Navy when Russell made the offer of a home with the Atomwaffen in Tampa. How was Russell affording the apartment and the other gear that the group had, from camouflage uniforms to numerous AKs and SKS rifles? It certainly wasn't on the small salary he received from the National Guard for his service. It is said that his income mainly came from buying firearms in Florida and then selling them illegally elsewhere to other extremists. Notebooks found within Russell's closet also featured hand-drawn maps of a nearby sandpit quarry with the GPS locations noted on it. Could he have been stealing explosives from that site? Owners of the quarry reported that there was nothing missing, but the ingredients for bomb making had come from somewhere. Perhaps they were just a future target. The four young men settled into the apartment, and friction soon followed. Arthurs blames it on his conversion to Islam, but there was evidence that he was picked on regularly by at least two of the other men, particularly for him not having a job. The situation in the apartment, for all of their allegiances to the group, was tense, and just days before Unchuck had called home and said that he was thinking of moving back to Massachusetts, he never got the chance. In the aftermath of that fateful day, Arthurs would be facing murder charges, and Russell would be held and charged with federal felonies of possessing an unregistered destructive device and for the unlawful storage of explosive materials. Russell would plead guilty on September 27, 2017, and would be sentenced to 5 years in a federal penitentiary. He would be released in 2022. Arthurs, on the other hand, was deemed incompetent to stand trial in 2017 after being medically and psychologically evaluated. He would be sent for treatment and was again deemed incapable of standing trial 2 years later. At this time, he had been diagnosed with a form of autism, schizophrenia, and an attention deficit disorder.
Devon Arthurs' appearance in court was anything but ordinary. Everyone in the courtroom, including the judge, got a first-hand look at Arthurs appearing to choke himself to the point of unconsciousness. It's the type of involuntary reflex a doctor who evaluated him talked about last month.
He squeezes and lets his head fall into his hands to compress his blood vessels until he begins to lose consciousness.
Arthur's attorney wants him back at a state hospital for treatment.
In May of 2022, after extensive treatment, Arthurs was found competent to stand trial. He was remanded back to jail and was ordered to take maintenance training while he was in the Hillsborough jail awaiting trial. As of this time, he is still awaiting trial. At the beginning of 2023, Russell had been released from his time in the federal penitentiary. He did not stay out of trouble for long, but was arrested and charged with a plot to attack the power grid of Baltimore, Maryland, along with his co-conspirator, Sarah Beth Clendaniel. Whether or not Devon Arthurs prevented a bigger tragedy by murdering two of his roommates or not is still very much up for debate. What can't be argued is that four young men, drawn to violence and extremism, had created an environment where something bad was going to happen eventually. It is very likely that the Devon Arthurs of that day may never breathe air outside of a penitentiary or mental hospital ever again. Brandon Russell's, after a second run-in with the law over his work to create a terrorist event, will probably not get off with a short sentence either. But even with both of these men and their immediate comrades taken out of American society, we have to realize that their reach was far. The Atomwaffen Division still exists with between 50 and 100 known active members in the United States. Some have been caught and arrested after doing crimes, but others still remain at large, possibly plotting a future move. If you found this case compelling, don't forget to like the video. Comment down below with your take on it, and please subscribe to the channel. Also, remember, we have a second channel, the Beyond Evil podcast, where we take the audio from our podcast presentations and make video podcasts. You can find it under the Channels tab. Don't forget to hit the notification bell in order to stay up to date each time we reveal a new shocking case. Until next time, stay safe and keep your eyes peeled. You never know what's lurking in the shadows.